This sequence uses gentle somatic yoga principles to release tension from and to repattern the muscles of the neck and the shoulders. So let's begin by lying. So come down onto your back with your legs long and your arms down beside you. Take a moment to settle. And then bring attention to your neck and your shoulders. And notice, for example, how your head is positioned. So which part of the back of the head is connecting to the floor? Do you feel a little more pressure to the right side or the left side of the center point, perhaps? You might notice where your nose is. Is it pointing directly upwards? Is it pointing to the left, to the right? You're also noticing how your shoulders are feeling, how relaxed or not they are in relationship to the floor. Noticing where your chin is your chin tipped upwards, or is it pulling off to one side, or is it exaggeratedly drawn downwards? So just bringing attention to all of this. And then let's roll the head slowly from side to side. So you're finding your boundary without forcing anything. So just go slowly, just notice how it is to move your head. Does the neck feel stiff? What's going on in your jaw? Do your shoulders tense up as you move the head? So just noticing the state of neck and shoulders before we begin. So next time head comes to center, just be still. And then let's take 3 deep cleansing breaths. So in through the nostrils and out through the mouth, making an audible sigh. And then as your breath returns to its natural rhythm, let's set an intention to relax the neck and shoulders and to release any burdens, any energetic burdens that we might be holding there. And then let's bend the knees to place the feet flat to the floor, so feet are about hip width apart. And then slowly, with the back of the head on the floor, tuck the chin down towards the throat. And then slowly, keeping the back of the head on the floor, you're tipping the chin up towards the ceiling. So you're feeling a arcing, a lengthening of the back of the neck. So let's take this a couple more times, as slowly as you can go, just drawing the chin downwards and then lifting the chin upwards, just looking out for any stuttering in your muscles, any jerkiness. We slow things down a little bit more if you're finding that. So make sure your shoulders are as relaxed as can be. And when you've done that about 3 times, just allow the head to return to neutral. The neutral positioning of your chin, and let the head be heavy, and you might take a cleansing breath and releasing all muscular effort. And then in the same slow rhythm, let's roll the head to the right side. Just find comfortable boundary, don't force. And then let's roll the head to the left side. Consciously relaxing your jaw, relaxing your face. So let's do this a couple more times, just finding your own slow pace. So let your eyes be soft in their sockets. Let your shoulders be heavy on the floor. Just attending to your breathing. And then next time the head returns to center, let's take a pause. Let's go back to moving the chin up and down so the head stays on the floor throughout. This time as the chin goes up, let's tip your pelvis forward a little bit so that there's an arc underneath your low back. And then as the chin tucks down, you're letting the pelvis tip backwards so that your low back presses to the floor. So let's take this a couple more times, slowly and smoothly. It can be a really small movement, doesn't need to be a big gesture. So the chin tips up and the pelvis tips forward, and then the chin tips down and the pelvis tips backwards. And when that's complete, just returning the head and the pelvis to their neutral position. Taking a breath, noticing your bodily sensations. And then let's roll the head from side to side again, but this time incorporating movement of the pelvis as well. So as you roll your head to the right, gently press the back of the right hip down into the floor. That's all you need to do, and that will lighten your left hip. And then as you roll your head to the left, you're pressing the back of the left hip down into the floor. So it's a small movement. So the hip that feels light, it doesn't have to leave the floor, it can do, but you can just allow for that sense of floating up without the hip parting company from the floor. You're just feeling this relationship between the hips, the shoulders, the head. And then next time the head arrives at center, be still, so the pelvis will also be at center. And you relax completely and take a breath. And then let's gather both knees in towards the chest and just catch hold the knees with the hands, so you can have your hands lightly on your kneecaps. And let's start to trace a circle round. So with the head and with the knees. So you can go off to the right side perhaps, and then the knees move away from you and the chin tucks down. And you go off to the left side and then the knees coming towards you and the chin lifts up. So nice, slow, smooth, circular motion. Don't need to keep tight grip of the hands to the knees. You know, they can be moving around quite easily. But do try and coordinate the movement of the head and the hips. It's going in the opposite direction. So we're going for about 3 rotations in each direction. Just check you're not holding your breath. Check that your forehead is relaxed, your facial features are relaxed. And then be still. And just be conscious of the center point of the back of the head on the floor and the center point of the pelvis. So the very center point of your sacrum pressed to the floor. And you can actively press down, press the back of the head, press the back of the sacrum to the floor for a moment. When you release that pressure, you're placing the feet down, so feet are about hip width apart. And then let's cradle the head with the hands. So we're interlocking the fingers behind the head, resting the head in the palms. And then gently press your right elbow towards the floor or into the floor. So your right elbow, your upper arm, the back of the shoulder, is pressing down into the floor. And then release that. And then take it on the left side, press the left elbow, upper arm, back of shoulder, down towards the floor, into the floor. And release that. And then both elbows pressing down together. And release that. Do that one a second time. So both elbows pressing down together. You might be squeezing your shoulder blades in towards the spine and feeling the pelvis tip forward slightly, so there'll be an arc of your spine. and then you release that. And let's take that once more. So both elbows pressing down and releasing. And then push down into your feet to comfortably lift your hips up towards the ceiling. So you want your hips higher than your rib cage. So hips lifting up to the ceiling, you're spreading and lengthening your toes and pressing the feet fully into the floor. Just take a breath here. And then lower your hips a third of the way down towards the floor and take a pause and just notice which of your vertebrae come into contact with the floor as you do that. And then lower your hips about 2/3 of the way down towards the floor and pause. So again, more vertebrae coming into contact with the floor. And then bring your hips all the way down. So the full length of the spine in contact with the floor now. You take a breath, you're relaxing completely. And then raise your head and your elbows up to look towards your legs. Just come up comfortably. So not up into a high sit-up, just comfortably. Keep your head where it is and your fingers interlocked. Bring the back of the hands, the elbows to the floor. So the head is lifted, still interlocking your fingers, and the backs of the hands and the elbows are to the floor. And then lower your head about 1/3 of the way down and pause. And then 2/3 of the way down and pause. And then all the way down, heads rest in the hands, you completely relax, you take a breath. So obviously it's important to be really comfortable when you perform these exercises. So if that's too much strain for your neck to take the hands away in that manner, just bring the head up not so high and perhaps lower it down in one smooth flow rather than coming down in 3 different parts. But do make it as comfortable as possible for yourself. So we're going to do this twice more, both with the hips and with the head. So you activate your feet, push your feet down into the floor, let your hips float up, reach your kneecaps forward. So hips higher than rib cage, and you take a pause here. Just notice how this is massaging your neck and your shoulders. And then lower the hips by about 1/3, do it smoothly. And notice the vertebrae in contact with the floor. So you could lead the movement from the vertebrae, the lowering of the hips from the vertebrae. So you're coming down another 1/3, so 2/3 towards the floor. So you're bringing more vertebrae down onto the floor. And then you're bringing the hips all the way down and you're relaxing. So head comes up. So let's do be kind to yourself. Just come to a level that feels completely safe and appropriate for you. And the head stays up, so you can support that by pressing your low ribs and your low back into the floor, so you're activating your stomach muscles. But the back of your hands, your elbows, come down towards the floor. They might not touch the floor, and you might be doing this with a prop underneath your head. And then you're lowering the head by 1/3 and pausing, and 2/3 and pausing, and releasing completely and relaxing. You're taking a breath. Just remembering that this contraction and slow release and complete relaxation of your muscles is helping to repattern them to neutral, optimal functioning. And let's do one more round. So push into the feet, you're lifting the hips up. So you might find that this round is a little smoother. And again, see if you can lead it from your spine. So lower a few of your vertebrae down and pause. So that's going to lower the hips by about 1/3. And then lower a few more and pause. So you're down by 2/3. And then lower those last few down and relax completely. So let that heavy bone of the pelvis completely relax. And then we're floating the head up, so don't throw your head up, don't force, don't strain. So head comes up and you're pressing the back of the ribs, the low back down into the floor. So your stomach muscles are on, so you're not having to hold the head up from the neck muscles. You've got the support of your core, and you're bringing your hands, your elbows back towards the floor. And then slowly, and again, perhaps you can do this from the spine. You lower a few more vertebrae down onto the spine for the head to come down by 1/3, and then a few more for it to come down by 2/3. And then the last few for it to come all the way down, and you completely relax. And then let's bring the arms down by the sides. Check in, be with your sensations, noticing how you're doing. So particularly sensations around the neck and the shoulders. And then to complete, let's roll off to the side and come onto our front. So I'm going to lie on the belly. And have your arms resting on the floor in a cactus position. So you're bending at the elbows, fingertips pointing forwards, palms flat to the floor. And begin with your forehead resting on the floor, center point of the forehead resting on the floor. And the tops of your feet just gently pressing down towards the floor. And then let's raise the neck and the head. So you're raising neck and head up just enough to be able to turn your head to the right. And then rest your left cheek down on the floor. Watch your right shoulder soften towards the floor. And then take a deep breath into that shoulder. And then stay looking to the right as you raise your head, your neck, your chest. And keep your chin just slightly tucked as you rotate your head to the left. So you want the back of the neck to be long as you do that. And then lower your right cheek down onto the floor. And watch as your left shoulder completely relaxes, so it softens a little more to the floor. You take a deep breath to the shoulder. And then stay looking to the left as you raise your head, your neck, your chest. Just enough now to return the head to center. Lower the forehead down on the floor. And if you've got time, you could do another couple of repetitions of that neck release each side. But for now, we'll just take a deep breath into the back of both shoulders. And then gather the palms in by the side waist, so you can push yourself up and away from the floor, or you can roll over onto your back. We're just coming onto our backs again to bring the sequence to a close and to do a post check, see how tension may have been released from the neck and the shoulders. So you're lying as you did at the beginning, and you're doing the same checks. So noticing, for example, where the head, how the head connects with the floor. So for me, as I began, I noticed that my head was weighted more to the right. So my head was slightly turned to the right, and now it's definitely more to center. So my nose is pointing directly up towards the ceiling. And you're checking in with your shoulders. So I'm noticing that there's more of the back of my shoulders in contact with the floor than before. You can roll the head from side to side. So going slowly, and as I do this, I notice that some of the jerkiness that was present at the beginning has now gone, and that I've increased my range of motion. So you might not be experiencing exactly what I'm experiencing, but I'm just naming it so you have an idea of what to look for. And the head comes back to center. You just take a few moments with your breath, relaxing and letting everything go.